Your opening scene is the most important scene in your entire story, but today I'm going to explain why you shouldn't worry about it at all until the end of the writing process. By the way, my name is Brandon McNulty. I'm the author of Bad Parts, also the author of Entry Wounds, and welcome to my writing channel. I have a quick video for you guys today because I've been very busy. I've been working on edits for a new novel that I've been working on, and over the course of writing this story, I learned a valuable lesson about the opening scenes, or about how to approach opening scenes. And I wanted to share that with you today. It's something that I believe will save you a lot of time and a lot of stress. And we've talked about opening scenes on the channel before, specifically like opening chapters and things like that. I talked about how when you have an opening scene, you need to establish the genre of your story. And you also need to introduce either your main character or your main villain. And you also need to think of that opening scene as a sort of story in miniature, meaning that how you pull off that opening scene and what goes on in that opening scene is a representation of the overall story. I think a great example of this is the first Indiana Jones movie. You have that opening scene where Indiana Jones enters the tomb, he finds the treasure, and then he gets the treasure taken away from him. And then guess what? For the rest of the story, it's all about Indiana Jones pursuing treasure, getting treasure taken away from him, and reacting to that. So it's very important that you do nail your opening scene. It has to be done well, and that's because it's the most important scene out there, because it's the first scene. It's going to set the impression, or it's going to leave an impression with the audience, and depending on how they feel about that opening scene, that will determine whether or not they continue to read your story, watch your story, whatever it is. Now, because the opening scene is so important, I think we stress out about it a lot, and we prioritize it over all the other scenes in the book. And sometimes right up front, right when we start writing a story, we're so focused on making sure that that opening scene is phenomenal. It accomplishes everything it needs to accomplish. It draws the audience in, it grips them, it sells them on the rest of the story. But I think it's a huge mistake if you approach the writing process that way. The writing process is all over the place. It's very non-linear. It's just completely unpredictable, and things are always changing. And whenever things change in the middle of your story, the end of your story, wherever it is, it's going to have an impact on the very beginning of your story. Now, earlier in my career, I always made the huge mistake of prioritizing my opening scene over the rest of the story. I was always so focused on making sure that everything clicked in that opener, everything was rock solid, everything was polished. I wanted to make sure that was a great opener before I worried about the rest of the story. And in the most recent writing process that I had with this new novel, I realized that I was much better off by just pushing off that opener until the very end. And the reason why I did was because I just dreaded writing opening scenes. I hate writing opening scenes, so I pushed it off to the side. And as I worked my way through the writing process, an incredible thing happened. I just worked on the rest of the story, I had fun with the rest of the story, and then I came back to that opener. And yes, I was dreading coming back to that opener, but when I came back to it, I knew everything that I needed to set up. I knew exactly what seeds I needed to plant in that opening scene for the rest of the story. I knew all the different payoffs. I knew everything that happened. And because of that, I was able to approach the opening scene with this sort of logical, checklist of what I needed to accomplish there. I didn't have to, force anything special in there. I just needed to put the pieces in place in order for that opening scene to serve the rest of the story. And it saved me a lot of time and a lot of stress. And let me tell you real quick about what happened with my book Bad Parts. The original opening chapter for Bad Parts, it was a chapter that I wrote many times, I revised many times, I edited, I workshopped, I rewrote, I spent dozens upon dozens of hours focusing on crafting and polishing and perfecting my opening chapter for Bad Parts until an editor told me that I was better off cutting it and starting my story at chapter 2. And that's what I ended up doing. The book Bad Parts that you see here on the shelf, it opens up with what was originally chapter 2. I ended up scrapping my opening chapter. So all those hours and all that energy that I invested into it, I ended up throwing it away in the end anyway. And it's just something that I learned through the years, and it's something I wanted to share with you guys. Think about when you're going through the writing process, if you're focusing really hard on getting one particular section of the story right, don't do that, especially if it's the opening chapter, because things will always change. And I think it's better if you just let the story take its course, let it find its own identity, and when you need to, in the later stages, that's when it's the time to come back to that opening chapter. So I hope this helps. Question of the day: have you ever given up on writing a story because you were so focused on perfecting the opening chapter? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to support the channel, please pick up a copy of either one of my books. Bad Parts is great if you like small town horror. It's about people trading away their sick and injured body parts in order to get healthy again. And then Entry Wounds is great if you like thrillers. It's about a guy who picks up a haunted gun and he can't put it down until he kills 6 people with it. Also, be sure to check out my other videos, hit the like and subscribe buttons for me, share this video with a friend, and as always, remember to keep on writing.